Hey guys, and welcome to Relationship Chronicles. Today we have a cheating revenge story from one of my subscribers that I will walk you through with, and afterwards I'll give my opinion and advice to this subscriber on how to deal with this situation. Here we go. Fooled by cheating SDBXW into thinking I was cheating. Then thermonuclear shinobi ghosted and served her Christmas day. I hope you've got some time and a snack because this one is going to be super long as the events that follow span from late 2019 to last week. As per the rules, all names are altered herein. Okay, so here's the backstory. My SDBXW was my high school sweetheart. We started dating in 1992 when we were both 17, we're both 45 now, and I've been together ever since. She's the only woman I've ever been with my entire life. We married 5 years later at 22, fresh out of college. A year later, we had our first of 2 children, both boys 22 and 17. 23 years I gave to her, build her a house, worked my ass off to give her the life she wanted. Sure, we had rough patches. But what marriage doesn't? Even in the worst of times, we found a way to pull through and come out the other side better, which made the discovery of her affair that much more jarring. Flashback to March 2020. When I first got the feeling something was off for a good 2 months prior, we were in a funk. I was on the mend from reconstructive knee surgery, blew out my ACL fall 2019, but still lacking in movement. At the time, I only had about 55% range of motion on my knee. This took a toll on quite a lot in the house. I was out on workers' comp as I had been injured on the job, and I was unable to do my usual household duties. So a lot got backed up. My sons would do what they could, but tasks only I was capable of doing had to be put on the back burner, or my wife had to do, which she wasn't pleased with. Things also crawled to a standstill in the bedroom between us. It had already slowed down prior to my injury, but in the state I was in at the time, it completely stopped. During these months, she will call her Sue was spending more time hanging with co-workers after work between November 2019 to March 2020. It was a regular occurrence for her. Naturally, I thought nothing of it. I've never in the 23 years I've been with her had any reason to worry or not trust her. She has her friends. I have mine and we have mutual. I go hang out with my friends all the time, and there was no issue. It was all above board. It was around January of this year that I noticed something odd. Sue started getting noticeably distant with me. Sure, we were in a funk, but she'd never deny me affection to that point. The usual hugs and kisses she'd give me came to a halt. Her phone was attached to her hand long before my suspicion grew. But she'd always share and show me things she discovered on the web. DIY ideas and recipes on Pinterest means all kinds of stuff. But she was now being guarded about her phone. Even her interactions with me became more snippy, as if she couldn't be bothered. So we're now in March. COVID has arrived and New York City is locked down. Our chosen careers fall under the essential designation, so neither of us have to work from home. I just been recently cleared to return to work after 5 months on the shelf, and I was eager to get back after it, as 5 months on my ass rehabbing my knee and not being able to do physical stuff drove me nuts. For context, I enjoy physical activities. I'm an avid martial artist, and I'm typically in the gym 4 days a week. On top of all of the home projects I did within a week or two of the lockdown. My STB-SW alerts me that she's going to have to start putting in extra hours. Again, I think nothing of this because of her field. Of course, I was under the assumption it'd be every other day. But no, it was every day. And not just an hour or two. She'd come home 3 or more hours later and go straight to the shower. Spend a little time with me, a little time with our 17-year/22-year-old, lives with his GF crosstown, and then go to bed. As I'm able to support myself on my knee better, we started getting intimate again. But as you probably guessed, she wasn't mentally or emotionally present for it, which I noticed quickly. So by early April, the picture started getting clearer to me. All of the signs were pointing to the idea that she was having an affair. That's when I decided I needed to find answers. So I scoured the internet on things I should be looking for, signs of infidelity in one's partner. And sure enough, She was pretty much ticking all of the boxes on such behavior. So then, my search inquiry advanced to, how do I find proof? I started with her social media, looking at her FB entries from months prior. It's pretty much the usual pics of us and our son's pics with her and her friends, and have more than a few pics of her nights out with coworkers. In these pics, it's a mixed bag of her closets, friends from work, and a couple of folk I've never met from her work. But I see one recurring thing, and a number of these pics, one guy in every picture he's in, he's rather uncomfortably close to her. His arm is around her shoulder or his hand on her lower back. Way too close for a guy I've never personally met. Needless to say, that put a sour taste in my mouth. But that wasn't the worst of it. No. The worst was the fact that apparently this dude is a friend of hers on FB and follows her on Egg. So, I gotta look up his FB account, and wouldn't you know it, I'm blocked. Why the hell am I blocked from seeing this guy's FB account? But he's friends with her on FB. Yep, now I'm in Batman detective mode. At that point, I wasn't even trying to deny it. I knew she was cheating on me with this guy. My mission was to find out for how long and over the course of April and May. That's what I did. Before we continue, please like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. You know, I never had any clue the depth of info you could secure from phone, text, and email records up until then. We have a family plan cell phone package, and I was able to pull up quite a bit of data. My STBXW's data history was telling the two most frequent numbers she had interacted with from October 2019 to April 2020 was my own. And a number I've never seen before. Take a wild guess whose number it was, a quick check on Google. And I confirmed it was the dude from the photos who blocked me on FB. We'll call him Pause, because that's what he is. Again, the picture becomes even clearer at this point. But a lot of their messages and texts were disjointed, which meant she was deleting a lot of them. I knew she was cheating on me with this guy, but nothing in the data could serve as a smoking gun. I needed more evidence. It's at this point that I tell my best friend as what I had found. He asked me, did I confront her with what I had? And I said no, because I felt like it wasn't enough. That's when he told me about an app that I could download to apparently spy on or communications in real time. I won't say the name is, I don't know the rules on that here. I got it installed, sync up my data plan, and waited. Within days of doing so, I finally saw it, a text string between the two of them talking about how much fun they'd have the previous night and making plans to do it again that weekend. Boom, gut punch. To say I was completely devastating was an understatement. I guess that moment counts as my D-Day, and for the next 2 days after I was just broken. I actively distanced myself from her those 2 days immediately after day, which she was noticeably shaken by. She tried to console me and asked me what was wrong, but I brushed it off and leave her presence. I couldn't even look at her. This woman who I gave 23 years of my life to, who I have given everything I could and more to as a husband. And she stepped outside of our marriage for a guy just 5 years older than our eldest son. By the 3rd day. I wasn't even sad anymore. I was pissed. I contacted us to let him know my suspicion was confirmed, and he asked me, had I confronted her yet? My answer was no, and I told him I wanted payback. I didn't want to just divorce her. I wanted to destroy her. I wanted to leave her life in shambles and fucking ruin her. It was going to take time to do so. And I devised a plan. In my readings and research on infidelity, I had saw a quote that resonated with me that went, "The enemy of infidelity is unpredictability," or something to that ilk. That was going to be the basis of my plan. I was going to make her life hell on wheels, while also secretly planning my exit strategy. So we're now in early June, and I've still got the app installed. Pretty much every night, I'm gathering as much data as I can, seeing their back and forth messages. They're talking like it's a full-blown relationship. They're in sexting, lovey-dovey, romantic stuff, news, the whole fucking bag. At that point, I had stopped looking at any of it. I was just collecting info and cataloging on my private FPS server. Meanwhile, I start doing things out of the ordinary. I start going out at odd times. I start coming home even later than she does, in her presence. I'm on my phone a lot more than usual, and when she asks, "What are you up to?" I just simply say, "Just stuff," and put my phone away. I'd also changed my login info on everything, so she couldn't access any of my stuff. Mind you, for our entire marriage, we'd never hid anything from each other. But right around, I'm assuming the start of her affair. She changed her password on FB as well as on her phone, stating she had to because of the security breaches in recent months. Yay. Really nice cover for hiding your affair from your husband. Anyway, I clued us in on my plan as well as telling my older and only sister and 2 more of my closest friends what was going on. These are people I trust with my life, and I swore them to secrecy. For context, Oz and I have been friends since we were kids. The other of our friends, Joey and Nina, we've known since high school. Make note of Nina. She comes into play down the road. July comes, and my STBSW is in full paranoia mode. She's texting and calling me a lot more frequently now, asking me if I'm going to be home when she gets home. When am I coming home? While she is, and I'm not asking me. What am I up to the works? I can see the seed planted in her head the month prior is starting to sprout, especially in her communication with Paws. She's confiding in him her doubt and confusion, telling him that I'm getting cold and distant. The fucking nerve of this woman. In the interim of these interactions with POS, she suggests that maybe they should stop meeting up at our house because she has no idea if I just show up confirming that yes, she has had this fuckwad in my home. Thanks, Sue. Pose asks her in that specific communication where she worried about me potentially cheating on her, which actually pissed her off. I can't even begin to describe the level of joy and how many laughs I got out of reading that exchange. My cheating wife arguing with her affair partner over, she's mad her husband could be cheating on her. Oh, the fucking irony. Now bear in mind, I'm not hooking up with anyone. When I leave, I'm usually at AWS or Joey's, throwing back some booze, watching fights and spending time with my brothers, or at my big sis house hanging with her and my Bill, who's like an older brother to me. My sister is 52, and her hubby is 58. She had told him about my STB, XW's infidelity, but not of my plan. Couldn't risk it as he's a bit of a blabbermouth. We'll fast forward now to October. That's when things seriously pick up. I've been in my full affair for 3 months now, and Sue is hyper aware of the fact that I'm actively pulling away from her. It's been as long as the day I enacted my plan until the day she confronted me, October 20th, 2020, that I'd even touched her. No hugs, no kisses, no initiation of intimacy, nothing. Not like she needed it. She was still fucking Poss just at his place where it motels. So that afternoon, she calls me at work, which wasn't rare before all this began, but certainly hadn't happened in a while, and asked me to come straight home after work, saying she had something important to tell me. I'm not going to lie to you all. I have believed she was going to come clean about her infidelity, but she of course didn't. Instead, I get home to her asking me, was I unhappy with her? The fucking nerve. She cites the fact that I've been spending way too much time away from home. I don't show her affection anymore, and our sex life has completely died. She tells me she's worried I'm pushing her away because I was resentful of how she treated me the months I was rehabbing my knee. And then came the punchline. She fucking asked if I was cheating on her. Folks, I fell out on the floor laughing hysterically. And when I say hysterically, I mean Joker, laughing gas hysterical. On the surface, it looked like Tour assuming it was me laughing off the notion of being unfaithful. But it was, of course, actually me laughing at the sheer irony of what was happening in front of my eyes. I'm tearing up, pounding on the floor, and complete hysterics for a good 2 minutes before I compose myself enough to answer. I sit up and look her in the eyes for the first time in months, shaking my head, but I don't give her an answer. I stand up, brush myself off, kiss the top of her head, and go about settling in for the night. Later that night, as I'm in my office, I decide, you know what? Given the brevity of what happened, I wanted to see what she was telling him. So I fire up the app, and sure enough, they're actually texting in real time. She tells Poss I know he's cheating on me. I asked him tonight, and he literally laughed in my face, He fell on the floor and laughed for like 5 minutes. It wasn't 5 minutes. Obviously. He doesn't even care how I feel anymore. I don't know how or why, but he's gone. I know I've lost him. This is karma. I know it. The smile I had on my face reading that must have resembled the Cheshire Cat. She was breaking. Pasa attempted to console her, saying that if I cared enough for her, she wouldn't have had come to him to give her what I wasn't giving her. But the tone of her responses told me she was having doubt now. She had the nerve to step out of our marriage because I was unable to fulfill my role as a husband due to legitimate injury and kept the affair going for at that point nearly an entire year. But the idea of her losing me to another woman was enough to make her waver. What a fucking weakling. Now, during all of this, I was also exacting the second part of my plan for payback, getting all of my affairs in order financially. In September, I had met with a family attorney to get the ball rolling on divorce paper with a mountain of evidence I've piled up to that point. New York is an at-fault state as far as divorce, and the overwhelming amount of proof I gathered displaying Sue's infidelity pretty much solidified. I could nail her to the fucking wall in a divorce case. My lawyer instructed me to get all of my financials in order in preparation for whatever division of assets might come as a result. I went one better than that, secretly pulling all of my money out of our joint account and putting it in my personal account. I also started shopping around for an apartment as part of Phase 2. We're now in November, and I've not changed my behavior. In fact, I've ramped it up. This is where my friend Nina comes into play. For context, Nina and Sue have never been what you call close. I met Nina freshman year of high school 2 years before I met Sue. Even way back then, Sue has seen Anita as a threat as she's my closest female friend. There's always been an implied I don't trust her from Sue regarding Nina. She's never addressed it directly, but it's obvious to anyone who pays attention. Conversely, Nina has never been a big fan of Sue. Early in me and Sue's relationship, Nina called to attention to me how Sue was pretty much imposing herself into our little square of friends, whereas I didn't do the same with Sue's set of friends that hurt Nina because she knew why Sue was doing it, her among Sue's circle. Even now there are no male friends aside from HOs, whereas Anita is the only girl in my square. Anita had been stuck overseas due to the virus and finally returned to NYC November 3rd. As Joey and I decided we were going to celebrate her return with a night at Joey's house for dinner and drinks. There was only 5 of us as Joey's wife, who is also Nina, sister, Anita, and Maya, of sticking to CDC guidelines. We take the Rona very seriously. Nina, being the evil mastermind she is, comes up with an evil idea to trigger Sue. She suggested we take some photos in the same vein of the photos I discovered of Sue and pos months prior and post them to my FB. And that's just what we did. It wasn't until the 5th that Sue got wind of it. As I'm guessing a few friends noticed my updates and saw how uncomfortably close I was with Nina. This really fucked her mind up because she still believed I was cheating, and I can almost guarantee she wanted to accuse Nina. But she knew that Nina had been stuck in Europe for the majority of the year. Still didn't stop her from attempting to dress me down that night for being so, as she said handsy in the pics. I saw this as a golden opportunity to deliver the lead jab for my knockout blow. I say, so what about the pics with you and Paws from last year? He was pretty handsy in them. But did you see me get bent out of shape over it? Deer in headlights? It was the first time I even mentioned the dude's name throughout all of this. The hamster wheel in her head started reeling in real time as she tried to explain away those pics. To that point, she hadn't even known I saw them. That's little I use FB when I actually do post something. It's like an event of people. Which is why the pics with Nina specifically got so much traction among our circles, and explain away she did. He's that way with everyone. He's just a really friendly guy. I can see how it looks, but there's nothing there. I'm sorry if those pics hurt you. I'll delete them. No, the pics aren't what hurt me. The year you've been fucking the dude was lying to me that you're working extra hours and hanging with friends is what hurt me. But vengeance, as Lieutenant Calm War from Star Trek TNG so famously said, as a dish best served cold. From that night, Sue was being extra specially clingy and attentive to me, like annoyingly so. She has tried to initiate affection and intimacy with me, and I'd stonewall her at every chance. All the while, I'm still archiving everything she's saying to mind you by this point, I've long since gone numb. Any desire I might have had to save my marriage was dead. I checked out the day I enacted the first phase of my plan. She's confiding in him that I've gotten worse, that she doesn't know what to do, and she feels like I absolutely hate her. Then comes the bombshell. She says she can't see him anymore. The guilt is too much for her, and she feels like karma is suffocating her. She can't risk losing me. She says that she loves positively, but she's still in love with me, and she has to save her marriage before she loses me. No, my dear, you're about 8 months delay for that pause, loses his shit saying such lovely things as he doesn't love you the way I love you, and you're making a mistake. You can't just throw me away like this. That text chain would be the last they'd have until about 3 weeks ago. Throughout the remainder of November into December, Sue's stuck in limbo. She's trying to gauge where my headspace is and is still unable to tell if I'm actually being unfaithful. Meanwhile, Pose is steadily blowing her phone up daily, but she's not responding to them. I'd see her check her phone often. They quickly put it away. Meanwhile, phase 2 of the plan was now officially complete. The divorce papers were done. I'd found me a studio apartment, and Co-op City New Yorkers will know the area, and signed a 2-year lease on it. All of my money was in my personal account. I was ready to throw my haymaker. So we're now at Thanksgiving. My oldest and his GF were hosting a small gathering of our immediate families. So the oldest and his GF oldest, Jeff's parents. She's an only child, myself, Sue, and our youngest. We have a great night. My oldest GF is studying to be a chef, and she did all the cooking herself. The girl can fucking cook. Let me tell you, as I had to keep up appearances of nothing being wrong between Sue and I initiated affection with her several times that evening. Kisses on the cheek, cute little hugs wrapping my arms around her shoulders from behind. The gestures didn't go unnoticed by her as she reveled in it. Bear in mind, this was the first time I touched this woman since I kissed the top of her head the night she confronted me in October. So, just about 2 months, not gonna lie. I felt repulsed doing it, but I had to. I couldn't risk the plan and me being distant to her in the face of my boys. My oldest GF and her parents would set off alarms. So my youngest decides he wants to stay over with his big bro for the night. So Sue and I head home on the drive home. She thanks me for being so good to her and says, "I don't know what you're going through, baby, but I'm here for you." I had to hold off busting out in maniacal laughter again and responded saying, "I know, I just need time. Let's move on to my thoughts and advice for the person that is dealing with this problem." In this gripping tale of betrayal and revenge, the protagonist's meticulous planning and emotional detachment reveal a complex mix of hurt and determination. The narrative skillfully captures the irony of the wife's paranoia while engaging in infidelity herself. The protagonist's commitment to vengeance and the gradual unraveling of the wife's affair provide a satisfying twist. The portrayal of emotional numbness and the strategic execution of the plan showcase a depth of character. As the story unfolds, it keeps the reader on edge, blending the personal and the tactical. Overall, a compelling narrative of heartbreak, deception, and the pursuit of justice in the face of infidelity. I wish you the best of luck moving forward. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.